Hello and welcome back for another kickoff video to another Penny Dreadful season. We're in season 21 and there's quite some exciting cards and possible decks that are legal this time around. So let's just dive right into what we have to work with this time around. First off, there's always the quick introduction to Penny Dreadful. I've done this a couple times already, so I'm just going to quickly breeze through it. It's a Magic Online only format, so you can only really play this on Magic Online. This is the best budget format out there because the legality of the cards is based on the price of the cards. At the beginning of every season, a week long, all prices on Magic Online are checked and the cards that are 2 cents or less become legal in the format. So with Pauper, you might have commons that can be a tick or more on Magic Online. All of these cards are relatively cheap, especially at the start of the format. So it's a good time that you're watching this video at the start because now you can pick up everything quite cheaply. It's a Brewer's Paradise. It's cheap, so you can just build all your bad decks without breaking the bank. There's lots and lots of cards available. There's a huge card pool and there's a lively community. There's a Discord, there's a website, and lots of people brewing decks, friendly folk, and there's almost always a game to be found in the casual rooms on Magic Online. Then there's also free tournaments with prizes. There's a monthly league that you can win prizes in, but there's also a couple tournaments each week, and if you get top 8, you usually win a tick, and if you win the whole thing, you can even win some more. There's even some bigger tournaments that I've started to organize now, and you can actually win quite substantial amount of tickets there. So that's a quick brief introduction to the format. Let's dive into the cards that have never before been legal in this format. Glistener Elf. This has not been legal before, but it is now. And it's kind of an exciting one. In fact, always a scary deck. We've seen what this can do in formats like Modern, and I'm curious to see what it can do in Penny Dreadful. I actually have a little bit of a deck for an Infect deck later on in this video. Then there's Intruder Alarm, another card that I have a deck for. This is a combo card, and yeah, you'll see what this can do. But this is one that I'm kind of excited about. Then there's Goblin Bombardment. Goblin Bombardment recently printed into Modern, and because it was in Modern Horizons 2, the price has gone down and now it's legal in this format too. I am looking into sacrifice decks. I haven't quite figured out the key to making this card work, but I think that it should have potential. Ajani, Caller of the Pride. This is a card that I expect to lose to. -3, target creature gains flying and double strike until end of turn. It's definitely going to kill me. This might slot into the heroic deck as a 1 or 2 off. It's just a cool planeswalker, one that's never been legal before. And Council's Judgment. Vindicate left the format, but we did get this, and this can not hit lands, but it can hit hexproof creatures or indestructible ones. Yeah, a very, very good removal spell. So I'm curious to see how widely this will be played. But this is a nice tool for mid-range and control decks. Then I talked about planeswalkers. Carve the Lion is legal in the format. It actually spawned a Modern deck, which was kind of surprising. But there are some planeswalkers that could work with this. This is one that I also kind of want to try. Again, haven't quite cracked the code yet, but this seems like a fun one. One of the planeswalkers that you can use with Karth is Sorin. Never before been legal, but if you play Karth and then you plus Sorin, he goes up to 7 right away. So that means you can already Mindslaver someone the turn after. So that's kind of cool. There's also Garruk that's still legal and that works with Karth too. You can ultimate right away, overrun. And then Glenolander Archmage, if you want to make life miserable for your combo opponent, the Archmage can do just that. It's crazy good in queue, but I'm curious to see how good it will be in Penny Dreadful, but it's an exciting card. Then Azuri Renegade Leader, a payoff and finisher for the Elves deck. Usually in Penny Dreadful, the Elves deck has been a little bit more grindy, but this is just a big overrunning body. So I'm curious to see if that can work. And then Thundermaw Hawkite, another card that I fully expect to lose some games too. Basically a flying lava axe, and that clears all of your opponent's flying blockers the turn it comes in. So yeah, this is I'm sure there will be some sort of like chonky red deck. It just powers out Thundermaw on turn like 3, and I'm so gonna lose to this card. Frost Titan. This is the first Titan I think that we've ever had legal in the format. I'm not sure, maybe this slots into a Wildfire deck that's kind of the perfect home for it. Not sure if Wildfire will be good enough, but if it is, I'm fairly certain that Frost Titan will show up. And then Narset Enlightened Master. I don't know if the tools are there to make this card good, but I'm certain that people will try, and I'm certain you can have loads and loads of fun with this card. Then Force of Virtue, free spell is always interesting. Free Anthem for your creatures. It's kind of a funky one because you have to play it in your opponent's turn, but it's nothing to scoff at, a free Anthem. And then Spectral Possession is also legal for the first time, so that kind of works with Force of Virtue. I'm curious to see if we'll see some Spectral Possession Force of Virtue decks. And Bloodbraid Elf, this came in at the very last moment, but yeah, this has been banned in Modern, unbanned. Now it's still a good card in Modern, and now it's been penny dreadful. So I'm certain that this will show up to maybe some sort of mid-range Jund deck or some mid-range red-green. Maybe it slots in with some sort of Thundermaw deck, we'll see. But Bloodbraid is a powerful enough card that I'm certain we'll see this show up. Still Overseer, Arcbound Ravager rotated out. It was close to getting in again, but ultimately it did rotate out. But the artifact deck does have some other tools, such as Steel Overseer, which is the new addition. And then Patriarch's Bidding. This used to be a combo deck. I'm curious to see what tribes we might see being mass resurrected. Maybe goblins, maybe zombies, maybe none, but it's a card to watch out for. It's powerful enough that it might find a home. And then Muldrotha the Gravetide. This is another one of those cards that I'm kind of excited about. I don't know if it's good, but it's a heap of value basically. I'm not sure if it can be good, but this is one that I hope is good, that's for sure. And then Nightpack Ambusher. I didn't need to slot in another green card, but there could be some sort of flash deck that this enables. I think like some of the counter creatures are legal, and green-blue flash has been an archetype in Standard before, and maybe it could show up in Penny Dreadful too. And then last but certainly not least, Faithless Looting. Now, for you old school Penny Dreadful players that are thinking, hey, wait, this has been legal before, you're right. In one of the first couple seasons, it was legal, but since then it hasn't been, and I never played Penny Dreadful while this was legal. And Faithless Looting is about my favorite card in Magic, maybe tied with Life from the Loam, so I'm just super excited to finally get to play with this in Penny Dreadful. There's been many seasons that I wished it was legal, and now it finally is. I really hope that I can find some Faithless Looting shells that I'm happy with and that I can play this card in, but I'm certainly gonna try. And then some all-stars from previous seasons that are legal again. Reanimate is legal together with Animate Dead, so you can bet that there's a Reanimator deck out there. And then Treasure Cruise, always good, just gas back up. Lodestone Golem to stop your Storm opponents, or maybe slot into a big mana deck. And there's Narcomoeba that has enabled some scary decks like Oops All Spells. I think that there's some variant of Oops that is legal again, although rest assured they're not as busted as they were before, I don't think. And then there's Day of Judgment if you just want to control the board and wipe it all away. There's Chain Lightning for you red mages. This seems to be a mainstay of Penny Dreadful nowadays. 1 red mana, 3 damage. Ponder to set up all of the combos that are out there. I'm kind of happy to see Ponder always being in the format. I really hate stuff like Opt, and Ponder is a good one. I don't know if I always want to have it legal together with Brainstorm, but it's nice to have Ponder for the combo mages out there. And then Hypergenesis, I'm not sure if this is going to be good. There might be a deck with it. We'll see. There's not as many Cascaders, but maybe it can show up again. And Tendrils of Agony, if you want to storm off, then this is probably the finisher of choice, but we'll see. Some more, Golgari Grave Troll is legal again. Now, last time that this was legal, I went on a 28-0 tear with it. Don't think I'm going to be able to do that this season because some of the supporting cast is not legal, but this is a powerful enough card that I'm curious to try, and maybe I can find something unique to do with it. Cloud Post is legal together with Glimmer Post, so I'm sure there will be some sort of Cloud Post deck. Simian Spirit Guide, legal last season, legal again this season. I'm fairly certain that this will enable some broken powered up draws. Then Jeskai Ascendancy, this always seems to be a deck as much as I hate it, but it is legal again if you're a fan of this archetype. Hymnotorak, another card that I'm not super happy with, but a lot of people love this, so expect to get him this season again. It's not unbeatable, but it is kind of annoying. Frantic Search, fine combo setup card, maybe for Storm, maybe for some sort of blue Reanimator. Birds of Paradise, just a great mana dork. There's lots of other mana dorks available, but Birds is probably the best of them. And Parallax Wave, another card that has proven itself to be very, very good. And you do want to have some sort of a plan to beat Parallax Wave, or just don't care and just play all of your funky decks that lose to it, and then just hope to dodge it in the league. That's what I will be doing. Dark Ritual to power up some of the busted draws, and maybe some Storm combos. And then Blazing Shoal. We started with Glistener Elf, and Blazing Shoal might be used on Glistener Elf to just infect your opponent on turn 2. But that might be a little bit inconsistent. There's also some cards that are no longer legal, or some cards that are often legal but are not legal now. Venser rotated out, and I'm super happy about this. Oh, I hate Venser. It's just so annoying to just either get your spell bounced or your permanent, and they can just leave up all the mana. Then they often had Ephemerate to just blink it again and again, and Ephemerate also left the format. I'm quite happy with that. If you like Ephemerate, you can go play Pauper. Lotus Bloom, another busted mana card that I'm not unhappy to see go. Cranial Plating is always busted, and it's enabling quite some annoying unbeatable artifact draws, so they will have to do that without plating. Then Creeping Chill is also not legal this season. This is one of the cards that I alluded to when I was talking about Golgari Grave Troll not having the supporting cast. So it will be a lot harder to build some sort of aggro dredge deck, because you can't trigger your Silver Smoke Ghouls as easily, and you can't just start the game with your opponent at 8 life, essentially. Sort of sad that this is not legal, but I'm certain that other people will be happy with it. And then Hermit Druid, yeah, this card has been a monster a lot of the times in Penny Dreadful, and it's not legal this time around, so you don't have to worry about Hermit Druid and pack a billion removal spells just to kill this. Then moving on to the lands, this is the section that you want to pay attention to if you just want to pick up some cards before they spike. They may have already started spiking a little bit, but yeah, mana bases are important to building decks, so these are the cards you want to pick up. We have quite a lot of the check lands that are legal again, so that gives pretty good mana. The only one that we're missing is the blue-red one, Sulphur Falls. So blue-red has pretty bad mana this season, but the rest at least has these check lands to make life a little easier. Be sure to pick these up. Then there's some other untapped lands like Battlefield Forge, Yavimaya Coast, and Llanowar Wastes. So these are untapped lands. They do ping you, but they are fairly good at fixing your mana, and they come into play untapped. And even turn 1, they can make 2 colors of mana. Then there's some Shadowlands, Foreboding Runes, Fortified Village, and Game Trail. These are also lands that can produce 2 colors of mana turn 1 if you have the land that you need to reveal in hand. And then there's some lands, for example, that can help with that and also work great with the check lands. These are the lands with basic land types. There's Murmuring Bosk as a tri-land. You do need to be running Tree Folks, so I'm not sure if you want to do that, but it is an option. There's Canyon Slough as a cycling land. There's Irrigated Farmland as another cycling land. Scattered Groves, and then Sheltered Thicket. And then there's also Sunken Hollow. So these are all lands that have the basic land types, so you can easily play the check lands. You can maybe play the shadow lands and get them into play untapped. I believe all of the snow duels are also legal, so these are also options to play with. Then we have some manlands: Raging Ravine, Stirring Wildwood, Hissing Quagmire, Lava Claw Reaches, Lumbering Falls, and Needle Spires to give you a little bit of value in your mana base and some threats. And then there's the temples that are legal, except again for the blue-red one. So blue-red really getting the shaft is to go around. These are fine lands. I mean, they do always come into play tapped, but they provide you with a little bit of value in scrying when they enter. And then if you just want to have perfect mana, there's always the option to play Snow-Covered Lands and Arkham's Astrolabe, because that's legal again. And yeah, this has enabled some busted mana bases in the past, and I'm certain that that will be the same this time around. So that was all the lands that I wanted to talk about. Let's look at some decks that could potentially be good this season. I talked about Infect, and Infect is an interesting one. You might recognize some of the cards that I'm going to show you. There's Glistener Elf, there's Blighted Agent, and then there's some extra threats. Glistener Elf and Blighted Agent are probably your premier threats, so you want to be running 4 of both of them. But 8 Infect creatures isn't enough, and Inkmoth Nexus, sadly not legal. But then there's the choice of Necropede, Plague Mirror, Ichor Claw Mirror, or Blight Mamba to to get up to 10 or 12 Infect creatures. Obviously, Infect also needs some pump spells. Invigorate is the best one out there, free, so this enables the most busted draws and the easiest kills. Turn 2, if you have a Glistener Elf, you could be facing lethal. And then Vines of Vastwood for some additional protection together with your pump. And then there's Groundswell to pump, Distortion Strike to pump and make your creature unblockable, Become Immense to give you a huge boost, as well as Might of Old Krosa. So these are the pump spells available to the Infect deck. And then Infect also has Ponder that they can play to set up their draws, get Action Probe to draw cards and just see if the coast is clear, and Spell Pierce as some additional protection and interaction. So as you can see, there's actually quite a bit of similarities to traditional Infect decks that you would see in Modern or Legacy. Obviously not all of the cards, but there's quite some overlap to be found. And then the mana base for Infect is actually also quite good because you have the blue-green fast land as well as the blue-green check land. Now, Reanimator is always a good deck, and it's no different this time around. There's discard outlets like the Underworld Cookbook, Putrid Imp, and Faithless Looting. So you can set up a turn 1 where you discard a big fatty like Sire of Insanity, Dream Trawler, and the new hotness, Villa's Broker of Blood. It's doing some sort of Grizzlebrand impression. And you have 3 reanimation spells. You have Life Death, you have Animate Dead, and Reanimate. So you have quite some options available to you. And then to power all of this out, you have Simian Spirit Guide and Dark Ritual to try and set up that turn 1 big fatty. That's really what this deck is going for. Some people have already started trying this with some degree of success. There's a lot of hate out there right now. Lots of people running Nihil Spell Bombs. If you don't just want to lose to Reanimator, you probably want to pack some hate because this is a very powerful deck. Then, this is one of my own brews. This is the only deck that I've played so far this season, and it's a Intruder Alarm combo deck. The way it works is you have a Birds of Paradise or Llanowar Elf, so you need a Mana Dork, and then you need an Imperious Perfect that no longer has Summoning Sickness. Then you can activate the Imperious Perfect using one of your elves when you have an Intruder Alarm in play. That means that you create a creature that comes into play, and because you have a creature come into play, your Imperious Perfect untaps again, as well as your Mana Dork. And that means you can just repeat this process and make an infinite number of Elf Warrior tokens. So it's a 3-card combo, but I found that it's fairly easy to set up, and the cards aren't embarrassing on their own. Like the Mana Dorks are good because you're accelerating, and Imperious Perfect can also sometimes grind some games out. Also, another option that's having 4 creatures on the board. If you have a little bit of extra mana, you don't need 4 creatures. You have Birds of Paradises, Llanowar Elves, Coiling Oracle to ramp, maybe draw some extra cards, and Prosperous Innkeeper, which is also nice because if you have this out, it ramps you with the treasure, but it also lets you gain infinite life if you can make infinite dudes. And the other way to combo is with Sprout Swarm. So Sprout Swarm with Intruder Alarm. If you have 4 other creatures and a mana available, you tap the creatures, have the mana available to make and buy back Sprout Swarm. So that gives you a Saproling. Then you'll have 5 creatures, and then all of your creatures untap, and you can keep Sprout Swarming, paying the Convoke, and just making infinite Saprolings. So that's the way that this combo deck works. I kind of like it. This is the only deck that I've tried so far. I went 4-1, kind of misbuilt, but I do think it has some potential. Yeah, this seems like a fun deck to try. While Affinity lost a couple good cards like Ravager and Cranial Plating, there were also some people that already put up results with a mono-white steel list. So you're playing a bunch of mopey artifact creatures, Ornithopter, Ginger Brute, Icehide Golem, Servo Exhibition to make 2 1/1 artifact creatures, and then there are some modular creatures. And then you have Chief of the Foundry, Signal Pest, Tempered Steel, and Steel Overseer, the Neo Affinity King, to pump up your team and do loads and loads of damage. The Steel Overseer is actually kind of nice with the modular creatures as well. And then I saw an interesting innovation from someone playing Parallax Wave in their mono-white steel deck as a way to stop some creature combos and also clear the field of blockers and just push damage through. Pretty simple, straightforward deck, but it's put up some results, and it's probably a good aggressive deck to play if that's your cup of tea. Another deck that I saw Ludwig Frito play a lot with this. He was getting 4 1s and also a 5-0. And it's an interesting deck that I also looked at, which is Red Black Madness. So the idea here is you have some Madness enablers, Putrid Imp, Lightning Axe, my favorite card ever, Faithless Looting, Rakdos Headliner, which is a 3/3 haste and then has Echo, so you have to discard a card. And these enable Fiery Temper, Alms of the Vein, Blazing Root Walla, and Kitchen Imp. A 2/2 flying haste for 1 mana is pretty good. This seems like a cool deck. I don't think it's optimized yet, but it does feel like it should have some potential to do cool things. And it's using Faithless Looting, so it immediately grabbed my attention. Then some just additional combos and synergies. There's again the Genesis and Aurus lock. So basically you have Aurus in play, you discard an Aurus on your opponent's turn, they can't play any spells or attack, and then you can keep rebuying the Aurus with Genesis. This has been a combo in many seasons, and usually it shows up in the winning deck list. And there's Parallax Wave and Nevermaker again to just keep looping and locking your opponent out of the game. There's Squadron Hawk and Force of Virtue, which I think is kind of cool. I really hope that there's some sort of aggressive white deck for the white weenie lovers, and Squadron Hawk kind of offsets the card disadvantage of a Force of Virtue. So that's an interesting mix. And then there's the classic Ferals and Phyrexian Dreadnought combo that is legal. Not as many new things, but mostly just old favorites reappearing again. That's my introduction to this season. I haven't been playing a lot of Penny Dreadful lately, but I do want to try again. I will be exploring this format, and I hope you explore it with me. If there's any decks you really would like to see me play, please leave a mention in the comments or send me a message on Discord, and I'd love to try any of your brews, as long as they're halfway decent. I don't have high standards. So I hope you found this video somewhat informative, and I hope you have fun playing Penny Dreadful. Ideally, we see each other in the casual rooms on Magic Online. I'll see you for the next one.